Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Primetime Newscast in the English language on Canal International. I'm called Maureen. We'll begin with our top stories. Traders of the 2D markets have decried the inconveniences they face due to the large potholes found on the road, especially during the rainy season this morning. Like other days, both traders, drivers, bike-riders, and the entire inhabitants are in total depression. As the price of cow or meat keep increasing, households have begun reducing the quantity of meat they consume and going in for other animal sources and plant-based protein alternative sources. United Nations COP15 against desertification has kicked off in Ivory Coast, in Ivorian capital, striving for concrete action against rapid degradation of land. Those were major stories. Details right ahead. Good evening once more. Traders at the 2D market in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé, have decried the inconveniences they face due to the large potholes found on roads, especially during the raining season. This morning, like other days, both traders, drivers, and bike riders and the entire inhabitants are in total depression. Utmu Kusumi tells us more about the state of the road.
Muddy and dirty is the situation of the A to the Market Road this morning after a heavy rain last night in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé. The stretch of road engulfed by market men and women. Deep pothole getting wider, putting bike riders, taxi drivers, inhabitants and traders into a difficult situation in which they decry. The transporters say passing through the spot remains a total nightmare as they are calling on the government for a helping hand before things get worse.
La route, on a de la peine vraiment d'exploiter cette servitude.
We have a lot of difficulties using this route because the situation of the road is not good. We can't cope. Crossing the road is very difficult. The government has abandoned us because a stretch of roads like this doesn't cost anything. Look at my bike. It's very dirty. We really need help. According to traders, the road is neglected and deep potholes posing total inconvenience. They have resorted to adopting specific attire to protect themselves from any infections.
And we stay in markets, but this time around we'll talk about cow meat, which keeps increasing, and households have begun reducing the quantity of meat they consume and are going in for other animal protein sources and plant-based protein alternative sources. Our reporter Gladys Ambodiba has been talking to some meat lovers. Her story.
With the scaling cost of cow meat in markets in Douala, Cameroon's economic city, consumers are diverting interest to other animal-derived protein sources and seafood. Apart from meat, we go in for fish, especially smoked fish. And it's not every day we consume because with time it would be boring. With my pounded Irish potatoes and beans, commonly known as pompili, I don't need meat. Irish potatoes is equally expensive, and I can choose to prepare the slimy soup nkui, the traditional meal in the western part of Cameroon. With this soup, I don't need meat. Meat is expensive, so we can eat pork. At least it's affordable. Plant-based protein, such as vegetables, kidney beans, soya beans, peas and granules, amongst others, are highly consumed as alternatives to red meat. In my house, we consume more of vegetables, which I prepare with crayfish or dried prawns. Mushrooms are no longer available. The least we find in the market is expensive. Since meat is expensive, we need to readjust our budgets and opt for varieties. So we go in for vegetables. Too much meat consumption is not good for health. According to dietitians, consuming meat in excess is dangerous for health, and advise that plant-based vegetables and white meat, such as pork and chicken, are better than red meat. There is a lot of risks related to consuming red meat. High blood pressure and other cardiovascular diseases and gout are associated to excess red meat consumption. Meat equally increases protein in urine and can damage the kidney. It should be recalled that the price of cow meat has increased and now costs 4,000 CFA francs a kilogram without bones and 3,500 CFA francs with bones.
CPDM, a senator for the northwest region of Cameroon, kidnapped more than a week ago, is still in captivity. Senator Regina Mundi's whereabouts is still unknown. Her kidnappers are known to have demanded a wrap of Anglophone detainees, with the 89-year-old senator who was kidnapped alongside her driver at Foncha Street on her way to a social gathering. Separatist fighters who claim responsibility for her kidnap has since not made any mention of any of other demands. We'll come back to that in our subsequent editions of Newscast. To avoid irregularities, disputes between insurance companies and their customers, the insurers have been cancelled to always anticipate, draft clear policy language and communicate properly. The insurance and stakeholders met in Douala. More on the story with our reporter Gladys Ambu.
The insurance penetration rate in Cameroon currently stands at 3%. The Association of Cameroon Insurance Companies, ASAC, blames the low rates on residents' unwillingness to underwrite insurance policies due to the insurance reputed failure in compensating the insured in cases of accidents or loss. Lack of proper communication accounts for this.
The fact that people are not informed, and we are just sometimes we realize that when people have their insurance documents, they do not verify to be sure that the company exists in reality, and sometimes the premium is not deposited in the cashier service, so the company does not know the person.
Stakeholders in the insurance sector are therefore meeting in Douala, Cameroon's economic city, to upgrade skills on CIMA's insurance regulations and the procedures in insurance management and settlement of claims.
We are happy with the turnout. The insurers and other stakeholders will upgrade knowledge of how to handle certain claims. We have insured persons who have been victims of injustice. Insurance companies failed to compensate them after completing payment of their premiums.
Everybody should be informed when you have to insure your car or a gift. Anything of your goods, you are supposed to be sure that you have the real and the authentic documents. You verify that the person who gave you the paper is authorized to sign on a document as an insurer.
It was disclosed that the Ministry of Finance has created a platform of insurance companies in Cameroon to facilitate information sharing of insured persons in case of an accident or loss.
The 2021-2022 academic year is drawing to its close with end-of-year and official examination around the corner. Some end-of-year students are getting set for the fifth sequence exams. Utmu Kusomi has been talking with students in examination classes. Her story.
Students sitting in due numbers, revising and preparing for their promotion exams. There is for the classes of Form 1, Form 2, 3, 4 and lower seat. In this private college, they are on with general revision.
Right now we are preparing again the seat sequence. So teachers have to go and revise the entire program because we expect that the teachers should set questions that will involve first term, second term and third term work.
Same image in this private primary school at the Colbison neighborhood in Yaoundé.
Allow long distance running and did you hear that? Yes, madam. Repeat after her. Long distance running and short distance running. Long distance running and short distance running. That is good. That is good. What are the two?
Though some still into integration activities, others are practically into 2 weeks of final exams, like the government bilingual high school Ekono, in which students of the intermediary classes come, write and go home. Meanwhile, final examination classes are fine-tuning preparations while waiting for the D-Day.
Meantime, AFCON competition and the strike of teachers has had a serious effect on the effective coverage of the year's program. Focus of a sectoral meeting that brought together basic education teachers here in the littoral region. More in the following story.
They might be putting on bright faces, but remain worried on the readiness of pupils for the upcoming official examination, which is first school leaving certificate and SEP for the Francophones. The AFCON competition and strike of teachers of basic education had adverse effects on the complete coverage of the year's program.
After the stop due to the AFCON and to the strike of teachers, we tried to gather the teachers and for catch-up classes. So that is how we really catch up the coverage of syllabuses.
So how will you rate it?
It can be for about 90%.
Besides all these, the teachers still maintain their most pressing concerns are lack of safe and secured learning environments, lack of teaching material, and delay in the integration into the public service, among many others.
We know since 2020 we'll have new syllabuses, a new curriculum. So some teachers have not yet mastered it very well.
In a sectoral meeting, May 10, the basic education family in Douala gathered in this hall to examine crucial problems and plan the next academic year.
We will seize the occasion to give to all the participants the text signed by our Minister of Basic Education, Professor Laurence Utungwa, for the preparation of 2022 examination. We will check also all the activity we carry this year so that we will seize the difficulty to organize remediation. And at the end of this conference, there are workshops where we are going to carry activities for a school year, for the opening school year 2022.
The teachers are determined to implement measures taken by governments, but insist government should maintain its commitments towards upgrading standards of teachers.
The use of long-lasting impregnated insecticides treated bed nets is one of the recommended measures to prevent malaria for at least 5 years. But the measures has not been effective. Reasons why it was realized that most mosquitoes are still very resistant in most areas. More on the story with our reporter Beatrice Ngamu.
Malaria is the most widespread endemic disease in Cameroon. Though mortality rate has dropped, the number of cases is still on the rise, representing 48% of severe malaria admission in hospitals, 40% of household budgets. The simple bed net scheme as solution, improved later as long-lasting mosquito nets for a period of 5 years. Today, most insecticide-treated bed nets' effectiveness lasts only 2 years, as mosquitoes have become resistant to the products they contain.
This insecticide is losing the efficacy.
The result of a study carried out by the Center for Research in Infectious Diseases. As malaria treatment is now on combination therapy, they see the need also for the bed nets to be impregnated with a combination of insecticides. The recommendation also from the World Health Organization.
Now we have a new generation of mosquito bed nets, but we have problem of procuration for it.
The constraints along the line notwithstanding, while waiting for the combination impregnated bed nets, the population and community advised to respect measures and precautions to avoid severe malaria.
You have even window. In your house you have to have nets, window net to have not only bed nets but window nets in house. You have to clean around the house.
Cameroon is among the 11 highest malaria-burden countries. When HIV/AIDS came, malaria was pushed aside. When COVID came, same fate, making rollback malaria even more difficult, though malaria still remains the first major cause of morbidity and mortality, especially among the most vulnerable groups here in Cameroon.
United Nations COP15 against desertification has kicked off in Ivorian capital, striving for concrete actions against a rapid degradation of land. Several heads of states and top dignitaries are attending the high-level discussions which seeks to find ways to restore the land. More on the story with our reporter, Regina Leketanda.
There are over 2,000 participants, including a dozen of heads of state governments, meeting in Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, for the 15th edition of the Conference of Parties, COP15 of the United Nations Convention to Combat Desertification. At the opening ceremony, renowned Senegalese singer Baba Mal sang nature's clarion call.
La terre nous appelle, le monde nous appelle, la terre nous appelle, la jeunesse nous appelle.
9 African heads of state are taking part in the intercontinental gathering. Several of them who took to the floor deplored decreasing agricultural yields, lengthening dry seasons, and the advancement of desert conditions. The summit is holding in a context of climate emergency that severely impacts land management policies and exacerbates the phenomenon of drought, declared Ivorian leader Alassane Dramane Ouattara at the opening of COP15, a crucial time thus to protect land.
How we manage our land has an impact on agriculture, just like our economy, security, environment, diplomacy, and territorial administration. The land feeds us, gives us clothing, gives us water to drink and air to breathe.
More than 40% of land in the world are degraded, according to the United Nations. The COP15 will highlight special attention on the restoration of 1 billion hectares of land.
Of gas and stick to their engagement to mobilize 100 billion per year to help development nations to better adapt to climate change and pursue their energy transition.
COP15 is holding under the theme Land, Life, Heritage, from a precarious world to a prosperous future.
And that report by Regina Leketandak brings us to the end of this edition of Primetime Newscast, the English language on Canal International. Thanks so much for watching. Coming up next is the brief with Lil Peugeot. I'll be back same time tomorrow. Good night.